Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. I hope your Sunday is going as well as mine has. Unfortunately, though, I have some of that good old New Mexico, West Texas wind going on here in Arizona. Back in the old days when I played golf a lot with a group of guys, they used to always tell me that they thought it was my fault that this wind was blowing here, since I come from a place that was extremely windy. And we had some good jokes about that, but it's pretty interesting this week. A lot of things linked up, and by what I mean by saying linked up means that throughout the week I had some encounters, and then it's so neat when you go into church, and I have no idea what the pastor is going to preach on this week. I mean, last week I did, because of course I did the lesson and a testimony at another church here in town, which was amazing. But I don't know what the pastor is going to preach about, and somehow it always links up and has relevance with what has gone on with me during the week and some things that happened with me. So I'm excited to share those with y'all. And I'll start out, I guess if I was going to title this session, I would call it Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. And we're going to talk about how we see each other and some things like that. But anyway, last Saturday, a friend of mine from the Portales, New Mexico area, who now lives down here, asked me. He was thinking about going and getting an appointment with a dentist in Mexico, because we know if you cross the border in Mexico, dental services are much cheaper. And he said, I've never been over there. Would you go with me, hang out, and we'll check it all out? And as we were driving down there, it's about an hour drive from my house an hour to where we go to in Mexico. And we're driving down through there, and we're talking about dental services and all of that. And I said, I've often thought about going and getting my own problems that I have with teeth fixed and taken care of. But then I said, well, you know what? That would be kind of like putting a new grill in a rusted out 72 Ford pickup. That's a beautiful grill in that pickup that ain't worth anything anymore. It was a pretty good joke, and we got a laugh about it. But it brings up a more important point, that how we see ourselves. And I think that has a lot less to do, even George Strait, the famous country and western artist, he sang about mirror, mirror on the wall. And he said, those doggone old mirrors, they don't lie. It's just a reflection. But sometimes that reflection is tampered. And that reflection of us is tampered by our perception. See, our mind doesn't change the reflection, but our mind changes the way we feel about it. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. When I found out, before I found out I had cancer, I started this massive weight loss, and I was dropping weight like it was going out crazy, and I didn't know why or anything like that at the time. But I ended up dropping 90 pounds. You don't understand what happens if you've never dropped 90 pounds, what happens when you do that. Even your head shrinks. And that would be so funny if my son was still alive, who loved to make fun of the size of my head. He would get a good laugh out of that. But as part of that, I don't, due to my stature, I have these little short legs, these little short arms. And ever since I got out of the military, I've been overweight. And so most of my clothes, I didn't order something off of the internet, let's say. I didn't run into Gap and pick something up off of the shelf. I didn't even go to Tractor Supply and pull something off the shelf. I had to try on everything. Most of my dress clothes came from Men's Wearhouse that were custom fit, so on and so forth. But I did do something about a year and a half ago, and I ordered a straw cowboy hat off of the internet, thinking that it would come creased the way it looked in the picture. It was the type of hat, the exact style, everything that I had gotten in the past. Well, when it arrived, it was too small. And I did not like the crease whatsoever. I always tell people, or used to tell people, I'm so picky about caps that I wear because so many of them don't look right on me. And I figured out something over the year. It's not the hat. It's not the clothes. It's not the caps. It's the thing that I look into when I put that cap on and go, do I like this cap or do I not like this cap? Oh, I hate it. I don't like the way it looks. And this all leads back to something I've dealt with most of my life. I did not like the way I looked. I did not like the way my hair was, and fortunately, I don't have to worry about that anymore because I don't have any hair. But I always disliked that, and I come to find out, after all of these years, it wasn't the hair. It wasn't the hats. It wasn't the clothes. It was me I didn't like. And I had a lot of guilt. I had a lot of shame. I had a poor self-concept of myself. And luckily over the years, or unluckily, I don't know, it's a conversation for another day, I learned to mask all of that. Most people wouldn't know that I was so insecure that I couldn't stand the way that I looked. I hated my voice. I hated my voice. Those things were not that my voice was horrible per se, or my looks were that much worse than anyone else. It was my own self-concept. And being a person that was abused as a child, you're told through that abuse that you're useless. You're terrible. No one will believe you. No one will listen to you. You're degraded to the point that you start to believe that, okay? And no matter how much other people tell you, well, you're a good person. Well, you look just fine. You're good the way you are. That doesn't stick. It doesn't work. You continue to think about that and it weighs on you, okay? And so looking through all of that and thinking about it and the lack of self-confidence and everything, pull that hat out once I get moved over a little closer to Sierra Vista to my job one day. And I was telling my youngest daughter, I said, you're not going to believe this. I pulled that hat out of that box and I put it on and you know what? Now it fits. And I looked in the mirror and I go, well, I like the crease on this hat. So I went in and I got some of my caps out and I started putting on different caps. Well, actually, I liked all of my caps. See, the hats hadn't changed. The clothes hadn't changed. The mirror didn't start all of a sudden saying, this poor guy, he's been through a lot. Let's lie to him and tell him he looks okay. My self-concept had changed. And it took me a while to understand that. It took me a while to realize that. And I'm still learning to deal with that because I still struggle with, that fear of insecurity. But nowadays, I can turn and I can say, you know what? That's okay, God. I may not be perfect, but in your eyes I am. Because remember, the Lord God created each one of us. He knew who we were going to be, what we were going to be, what we were going to look like before we were ever born. He knew that. He took the time to create each one of us. And I'll just let you in on a secret. God doesn't make mistakes, so I'm not a mistake. I may not look like everyone else. I may not act like everyone else. I'm definitely not as smart as most people are, or as eloquent, or as well-spoken. But I am exactly what God created me to be like. The problem was, God also created me in His image to follow Him, to love Him, to help others learn about Him, to guide others in the ways of God's teachings, to lead others to salvation through Christ. And there comes in the problem. Because I knew deep down in my heart that I wasn't fulfilling God's promise for me, that I was not seeking Him out, and I was not living to be a child of God. I was living to be a child of the world. And let me tell you what, the world has no mercy on you. I've often said, remember, we don't want what we deserve. We want grace. And grace is that forgiveness. Society doesn't have that. Society tears people down. Society destroys people. As I've said on here so many times, it kills me sometimes to watch the things that kids go through. Even just in the last week, working with some kids that were having some problems and things outside of schools and things that they were saying to each other. It's horrendous, the things that they say to each other, the things that they do when they're on this social media and all of that. And it makes me sad, but I want to give you a verse to go with that. It's Jeremiah 1, 4 and 5. And it says, the prophet is called, that's the title, then the word of the Lord came to me saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. We are sanctified. I ordained you a prophet to the nations. So these are the folks that Christ had had ordained, and they were disciples, and they were going to be prophets. Each one of us is created, like I said, by God in God's image. And we know that upon our passing, and when the Lord comes back and we join him on the earth, we're going to have a new body, and it's going to be in the image of God. I can only imagine what that body's going to look like. And of course, it's very interesting to think about those kind of things. But the important part about that is we are already that way. We are already We are already created by the Creator. We don't have to think that we're inferior. Now, we don't need to think that we're better than anyone else either. That doesn't do any good. We don't need to have a bloated ego, because we know that ego is one of the largest downfalls of mankind. But if we decide to not only recognize that we're created in the image of God, but we also were created to have God come into us, the Holy Spirit live in us and guide us and protect us, that's kind of amazing and a little bit scary. I mean, I hope I'm living up to that. I know that I'm not. I know that I fall short. And I ask for forgiveness for that all of the time. And I ask for guidance in that. But I do know that I can go through the rest of whatever's left of my life knowing that I don't have to feel inferior. I don't need to have a low self-esteem. I'm a good and decent person because that's the way God created me. And as long as I ask him to guide me in everything I do. And remember, I've said before, let's not pray that God come in and tell, oh God, what do I need to be doing? Should I brush my teeth tomorrow? Should I do this? Should I do that? No, we want to pray that God's will for our society, God's plan here on earth comes to fruition, but we want to ask for guidance to be knowing in what our part of that is, how we fit into that plan, how each one of us is able to have a part in that, and we can go forth and we can help bring about God's kingdom here on earth. And that's pretty exciting, and that kind of makes us special. And as I've said before, you know, the first time that I was sitting in my bedroom, and I said, you know, I understand what you're doing, Lord. I know that you're calling me to do something greater for you. I don't know what you're thinking. I can't do this. I'm not knowledgeable about the Bible like some people are. I've been living outside of my religion for 45 years. But you know what? That night, and I've said it several times, I realized I don't have to worry about that because God is speaking through me. The things I am doing when I ask his guidance, when I ask to be given the tools and the ability to carry out whatever it is that he wants me to do, he doesn't make mistakes. He's not going to allow me to fail as long as I'm humbling myself before him, asking for his guidance, and doing what is good and what is right according to his plan. That's all. It's just that simple. I don't have to sit around. I don't have to fret about it, and I don't have to worry about it. So I want everyone to think about that. You know, we have a society where people go online and tell these kids, and even adults, I'm sure, are doing the same thing. You're useless. You're no good. Why don't you just kill yourself? I've heard this, seen this on kids' phones where they're telling each other these kind of things. But we need to ignore that. And we need to stay away from that kind of thing because we are good enough. We are loved. We're beautiful in God's eyes, no matter what my mirror says sometimes. It's okay because we have the creator of the cosmos living within us, directing our lives. And if you don't, you need to get on that phone now. You need to text me. You need to call me. And we need to work through this because you're struggling when you don't have to. And you're living a life that you don't have to. And I know sometimes you think it is the happiest way that you could ever be. But I'm going to tell you there are greater things in this world. Again, if you have a chance, please like the video, subscribe, share, make comments. All that does is get this video shared amongst more people. It puts it in front of more eyes. that means more people may have a chance to look at this and make a decision to bring Christ into their lives, maybe to renew their commitment or to find a new way to go. So that's what we want to do this for. So please help me out with that. Until next time, I hope you have an amazing week and everything that you're doing is working out. And those of you who call me and talk to me about these videos, please do not stop doing that. You give me ideas, you give me thoughts, and you enrich me. I need that as well. And thank you so much for those of you that are doing that. I hope you have a wonderful week. Until next time.